Alright, last one for the night, and then I'm gonna sign off on it for a while. And that's gonna be Davey Rizzo talking to the Void. Take 223. Grave Encounters 2. Now, I reviewed the original Grave Encounters in my initial kickoff marathon way back a year ago, and I liked it. I gave it a pretty good review. I don't remember what ranking I gave it, but I gave it up there. I'm not going to be able to do the same for the sequel now. There are things that could work here. There's some concepts that are interesting, but they don't set it up quite right, and it kind of falls apart on some inspection, and the characters detract. So we're at some issues here. All right, so Grave Encounters 2 takes place in a world where Grave Encounters exists. And kind of in the same vein as Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows or Human Centipede 2, it's doing the thing where the sequel is about people who get hyped up about the movie and then stumble into the same thing. I've seen it work. I don't know if any of those are great examples. I mean, Blair Witch 2, well, I didn't mind, isn't a great film. And Human Centipede 2 that's a whole other kettle of fish for, I'm not gonna get into that now. Grave Encounters 2, it's just, it sort of just is. I will say, I do like, then, like the fact that the main character is someone who initially didn't like Grave Encounters. If you see a little bit of a YouTube review of his, and he gave it like 1 out of 5. So, okay. I guess you're just mocking your critics now? Balls on this movie. But the beginning thing is a bunch of people just giving their reviews of Grave Encounters, and okay, sure. But I liked that not it is kind of an equal mixture of people who loved it, people who hated it. So, this is about a film school major and his group of friends who are making horror movies. He reviewed Grave Encounters and then got a reply from a mystery account saying dubbed Death Awaits, which gave him some weird extra footage that wasn't seen before, and it slowly is driving him down this conspiracy theory of did Grave Encounters actually happen? Which, okay, so they've set it up that this is a movie that still exists, that exists in this world. They even mention IMDb, and they talk about the actors, and they say that the actors haven't done anything since then, but and that the producer just added some digital effects to the found footage just to make it look more like a movie, and then released it, which I guess answers the problem of how the movie got edited and released, because someone actually edited and released it to try to recoup some losses for the cover up, I guess, of the people going missing. So some of that works okay. I don't mind that. But the fact that they are playing it like that, but the characters in the movie only refer to each other by their character names rather than their like IMDb actor names, if I recall correctly. I don't think they were actually going by their real names. Yeah, no, they're like they do occasionally reference like some of the like Merwin Modiser. They actually reference his actor name rather than his character name. But if the other one was actually happening, why were they only calling him his character name? Did they digitally somehow touch that up and just do mess with the audio? They don't really address that. I just kind of hope you'll forget that that's if this is a real thing. Why are the actors still keeping in character while they're being murdered by ghosts? Anyway, the conspiracy, he gets a bunch of clues, goes around, meets some people, including the producer, the mother of the main character from the first one, and then before going out to the actual asylum, and then the obvious thing happens. They get trapped within it. And it's clear that the asylum itself seemed to have been trying to lure them there, which is cool, or some demon trapped within it. Neat. Okay, that's cool. I'm fine with that. But the fact that the characters seem honestly surprised that they got locked in this asylum, that they were going to investigate, when that's exactly what happened in the movie that the main character is now trying to prove is real. And they seem surprised that this exact same thing happened to them. These are not intelligent characters. And the problem is most of them aren't that likable. The main character is kind of a pompous ass. And he is, as he goes along and getting more and more obsessed, he's becomes less likable as the film goes on. And that's a problem. And he's our lead. And the movie just, it isn't as scary as the first one. There's a few scenes here or there that had a little bit of tension, but for the most part, it just doesn't rekindle any of that. The beginning investigation is only, it's interesting, but it isn't really jarring. And once they get to the asylum, the spooky happenings are too few and far between, or just rehashes of what you've already seen, but done less stylishly. It's mostly just a bunch of jump scares or things just chasing you at the camera for a while. There's with very little build-up. I will say I did like the fact that they did find one of the characters on the first one who'd been living in this place for 9 years, and he's out of his mind and trying to has mapped this place, and it can now wander through these endless halls as it reconfigures. And some of that part was cool, but they didn't explore that enough. Like the map of this, and like they say to stay out of this one area, they go in there briefly and see a little bit of the history of it, but not enough to really gain anything. Like I will say, it doesn't fall into the same problems of the that I mentioned for Hell House LLC 3 of replaying a lot of the footage. This one, it really doesn't do too much. You just see a brief clip here or there, or they'll flash up something just over the screen just for a second. So it doesn't eat up nearly as much time. But other than that, it doesn't really. There's nothing here that warranted a sequel. While the Hell House series, it's one continuous storyline. This is just a sequel for a sequel's sake. It's the Grave Encounters was complete enough. This one doesn't really add anything. So the best I can do on this one's 4 MacGuffins. So it's okay. I've seen worse, and the acting isn't bad. Just the characters are not that great, and which is kind of a sticking point for me. So this one isn't really necessary. Stick with the original Grave Encounters. Yeah, that's really all I